This is Ray.
This is Andy.
And this is FDS CFL final show, Andy, of Season 3.
Grey Cup recap. Perhaps the final show ever, Ray.
Possibly.
I guess
it would be sad, but we'll see what happens.
We'll have to see what happens as we...
Before we get into the details of how that could happen, let's talk about our sponsors.
If you need a beer, get yourself a Moose Light. This stuff is...
scary good.
Absolutely. And if you need a shirt with a logo on it...
I don't have any logos this week.
Well, there's a logo.
They make logos.
Yeah.
They make logos.
Your own custom logo.
Go see the boys at Doyle's Corporate Image.
Because the Doyle's rule.
Doyle's rule.
Yeah.
Andy.
Grey Cup.
I had an unbelievable football weekend for Canadian football.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I took in the Vanier Cup in Quebec City again between Montreal and Calgary.
Yep.
We were with the Calgary bench this year.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The
same side of the field.
Same side, same corner. We were going to move over to the other side of the field, but we decided to stick with the teams.
Yeah.
The crowd in the tailgate was excellent, but it was nowhere the size of the crowd we saw last year for Western and Laval.
And obviously because Laval was in the game.
Laval wasn't in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there were still a ton of Laval fans that were at the game, and they were all rooting for Calgary. There was no question who the Laval... I don't know if you remember the Laval fan. He wears the big hat with the horns, and he's got the hand from the guy from Avengers.
Yeah, the gauntlet or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
the one with the diamonds in it.
Yeah. Thanos is gauntlet.
Thanos.
Yeah.
He dresses as Thanos. Well, Thanos was there again this year.
Nice.
But he had a T-shirt over top of his Laval shirt, and it said Calgary Dinos and blah, blah, blah. So
nice.
Laval was going for the Dinos. It was really fun. Dinos win this game. It was very exciting. And then, you know what it was like last year? We get up at 8 a.m.
Hit the road.
We're on the road by 8:30, and we're hustling back to make it back for the Grey Cup.
Yep.
And I made it back about an hour and a half before kickoff. Got to watch some of the pregame, and what a Grey Cup! What a Grey Cup!
Yeah, it was an interesting Grey Cup.
Grey Cup.
Not the competitive game I was hoping it would be. I was a little shocked not with the game that the Bombers played, but I was a little shocked with the game that the Hamilton Ticats played. Now, before we get into the game, I need to address something quickly here. I'm wearing my Ticats hat. For the last 2 seasons, ever since we started covering the CFL, I've adopted the Hamilton Ticats as my team while we wait for the Schooners. But let's be honest. I'm not a real Hamilton Ticats fan.
No.
Again, I'm waiting for the Schooners. Well, listen, it's been a fun ride, Hamilton. I saw you get right to the doorstep. Didn't get it done. There's nothing but good things that's going to happen with Hamilton moving forward, I'm sure. And let's just hope that I was the piece of bad luck that didn't make it happen. But it's time for me to move on while we're waiting for the Schooners, or in fact, move on to a team that perhaps I'll be stuck with permanently because the Schooners may not arrive. And if I'm stuck with a team permanently, I have to have some good reasons for it. I need to find a team that I had some ties to. Well, you know what? Why not the city that I'm in more often than any other city in Canada? Why not the city that I lived in for 7 years? And why not, Ray? Because look, you show up here at the show every week claiming to be a Bombers fan. You bought that hat because there's a big giant W on it.
Well, Jeannie B got me this for my birthday.
Fair enough. Your favorite thing about it is the big giant W on front of it.
Well, I'm all about the W,
all
Andy.
about the W for a lot of different reasons. Well, if you're all about the W, I can play that game too.
Oh, boy.
So moving forward...
Oh, no.
It's all about the A.
All about the A. The A versus the W.
There it is. Listen, if we're going to have shallow, egotistical reasons to root for a team, here it is.
Well, we've got a big change in sponsors we got to make.
Okay.
We got to get rid of this.
Why is that?
We can't have Moose Light on our table. We need to have A&W root beer, baby!
Whoa,
let's go!
idea.
Let's get some A&W root beer.
Listen, your task for this week is to get on the phone and make that happen, right?
See what I can do.
Got to make that happen.
See what I can do.
All right. So Grey
was
Cup.
pretty good. Good surprise. Good
Grey
surprise
Grey
there.
Cup. Yeah. Well, you listen. I need a team.
Do you like how I came up with the root beer that quick? That was pretty good
because I had no idea where you were going. So, yeah, Ray. The lead up to the game was fun and exciting. All our CFL friends and that we've met through the podcast and so on. They were all over Twitter having a blast. The parties were crazy. And like every Grey Cup, it's just a big family affair, and you see the crowd, and there's fans of every single team on there. The halftime show, we'll get into it in a second, but I just expected both teams to come out just raring to go, and you could tell right away that the Bombers' defense was just not having it. They were not going to be giving Dane Evans any time to think.
All the experts were taking Hamilton all week long. Hamilton. That's all you heard. Nobody knew exactly what Zach Claros was going to bring to this game.
Yeah.
But Andy, from the opening kickoff in this game, Winnipeg punched Hamilton right in the mouth, and they couldn't come back from it.
Yeah.
They folded like a wet tent.
Yeah.
Hamilton. And I mean, listen, head coach O'Shea. He had his guys ready to go. And I mean, top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams, these guys kicked Hamilton's butt all night long.
Yep.
And it was watching Dane Evans at the end there. I mean, the guy's in tears putting his helmet on to go back out into the field to try to make something happen.
Yeah, it was
They
tough.
were in shock. And when Brandon Banks went down, they hit him so hard. And that was the thing, watching that defense, like when they were making their hits, they were all perfectly legal hits.
Yep.
But they were hitting those guys as hard as they could. And the hits that Brandon Banks took in this game, Andy, wow. Yeah. Wow. That's all I kept saying. I use wow because it's all about the W.
There it is. Yeah, they listen, they were shocked and they were just crushed by this. Ticats fans were absolutely crushed as well. I mean, you can understand there's a lot of hype going in, right? And I think I don't want to sit here and say that the hype they got carried away with the hype that they couldn't live up to it. But listen, you look at the awards. I mean, the Hamilton Ticats won basically every award, right? Yeah. Brandon Banks, most outstanding player. They had the most outstanding special teams player, and they had the coach of the year in Orlando Steinauer. And those guys, they deserved that.
Yeah.
But with all the hype and they were well decorated, the Bombers did not care about that whatsoever. And they went out there to prove a point, and my gosh, they were ready to prove it right from the start.
Yeah.
And I was watching with my parents, and they follow our show, and they watch the CFL as well, but, maybe not as closely. And the comment my mom kept saying is like, why is the Winnipeg team so much bigger than the other team? And it's
just played big.
They just played big. I mean, they may be bigger, on average, but I mean, they just played bigger, and it just looked like they were throwing Hamilton around like dolls. So
I'll tell you one guy. I mean, Andrew Harris played lights out, Andy. Yeah. Lights out. But if there was a category for a second MVP, Strevler. I mean, Strevler was amazing in this football game. Yeah. He's the only guy that threw an actual touchdown pass in the game. That pass that he made to Andrew Harris in the end zone was just... The defense was completely thrown off by it because they figured Strevler was going to run.
He's going to run.
Yeah. But by the end of the game, Strevler couldn't even walk. He couldn't even walk. But he came out one last time and got another first down.
Yeah.
He is, man, again, Harris, no question, MVP. But Strevler deserves something because he was unbelievable in this football game for the Blue Bombers offense.
Yeah. I believe it's the first time in history that the most the player of the game and the Canadian of the game was the same player.
First time.
Listen, Strevler's getting his raise. As Strevler is becoming an internet sensation.
He is.
An absolute legend. How's he dealing with all that pain that he was in? Michelob Ultra, man. All you see is the guy's running around with a fur coat on and crazy hat, and he's carrying a case of Michelob Ultra with him at all times. I mean, I don't think he stopped drinking since the game was over.
It's like Ovechkin winning the Stanley Cup. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Very similar.
anyways, I am loving it. I'm so happy for the city of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Listen, the company I work for, head's office is in Winnipeg, and I mean they pretty well had the day off yesterday. There was a couple people talking, but
Yeah.
I mean Winnipeg partied crazy. They're having the parade today. I saw it live on Facebook. I know most of the people I deal with in Winnipeg were there.
And Streveler was still in uniform.
Uniform. So I mean it. I'm very happy for Winnipeg. It was just a great night, great weekend of Canadian football.
Exactly. And Streveler, look, Chris, if you know, I doubt you're watching this, but if you are, I understand why you go the Michelob Ultra route. You got to keep those abs intact. But listen, when you're ready to step up to an actual beer with actual flavor, you know where to go.
You go to Moose Light, and if you're drinking pop, you get the root beer, A&W root beer. There you go.
There we go. The unofficial sponsor of the podcast here. So, well, that was the Grey Cup. Interesting year overall, and like similar, you know, to the NFL now. The CFL off season. There's never really an off season.
Well, before we move off, there's one thing I want to bring up here.
Okay.
What I loved during the Grey Cup, did you see how much love Acadia University was getting?
Oh, yeah.
They talked about Acadia University a lot because there was players playing for Acadia on both sides of the ball.
Yes.
Right? For both teams. But who was the first guy to get his hands on the Grey Cup when it was handed out?
Who was it?
Do you know?
I don't remember.
Acadia's own. From Fredericton, New Brunswick, Jake Thomas.
Nice.
And man, it was awesome getting to see a guy that I've seen play be the first guy to get his hands on the Grey Cup. Incredible moment for 506 football. It was great to see a New Brunswicker be the first guy to pick up the Grey Cup this year. It was amazing.
It was awesome. I guess we should talk briefly, before we move on as well about the halftime show. Yeah, there were lots of people at work today. I saw you tweeting maybe it was Facebook. You made this comment to some people that you had heard that there were offices of 400 people and not a single conversation was taking place about the CFL here in Atlantic Canada. Yeah. So I was pleased to see that when I went into the office today and I was doing my rounds and so on. There's a lot of people that like to talk to me about the Browns. Oh, the stinky Browns are doing this again. Blah blah blah. Talk about football, but there were actually more people that asked me about the Grey Cup than the NFL.
That's great. So that's great to hear. I hope we can keep moving the needle here in Atlantic Canada. Listen, Halifax it's a weird environment right now. You're either for it or against it. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground with this whole stadium issue. And if you look, like every single day, there's reports coming out. There's a new tennis facility that's going up for $30 million.
Yeah.
Bedford wants to put in a new fourplex hockey rink. It's going to be $58 million. There's all kinds of money to be spent down there.
Yeah. I got one for you, Ray. I almost made a big deal of this one day, and I almost went after one of the counselors on Twitter just because I thought it was so stupid. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to make some light of it a little bit here. While us football fans are waiting to hear about this, I was on Twitter one day, and one of the counselors shared a story from CTV about a houseboat.
Oh yes, yeah.
So basically, in the lead title of the whole thing was council orders full review or full report on houseboats because they found this one floating house, a single one.
And there's no property tax.
There's no property tax because it's not actually attached to the bottom of the water.
I read this too.
So they needed to set some rules and guidelines because they saw it as a harbinger of things to come. Listen, but yet we had a counselor trying to vote on not reviewing the CFL stadium proposal at all because it was taking up their people's time. But it's totally fine to order a full report on one houseboat. Anyway, I'm laughing about it now, but it is frustrating to see stuff like that. So, and I mean, I see that. You're right. You're talking about the tennis facility and various things like that. Obviously, the people that are for that, for the stadium, see that they get very angry about it. I'm sure there's more to it than.
Listen, it really comes down. I just wrote a blog for my trip back from the Vanier, and I had a little bit more time on my own this year to kind of look at what goes on to putting on an actual football game. I mean, you and I know the basics, the jobs, the security, the this, that. But there's a lot of little things that go on inside the tailgate.
Yeah.
There was kids coming around selling chocolate bars, selling beads for the game, doing all the stuff that I see that at the Bills games and whatever you go to. But a guy came through the parking lot with these 4 or 5 kids, and they each had plastic bags, and they're looking for empty cans. I see this at every game I go to, right? So I stopped the dad for a second, had a conversation with him. Luckily, he could parler anglais, which I did very good with my français this week, Andy. I did really good with my français. But he parler anglais. I said to him, let me ask you. I said, when you're like, I see other kids selling chalk bars. I see this. I said, what kind of return do you get in collecting cans?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of return do you get? He says, this is the biggest fundraiser that they do for the kids. They're a traveling volleyball team. These are like high-level volleyball players that play right across Canada.
Yep. And
the cost is very expensive. They go to all the Laval games to collect cans. They've done over $20,000 year to date this year collecting these cans. It's a huge fundraiser. And I bring up that little detail because there's so many little things out there that can be involved in tailgates here in Atlantic Canada that can benefit other things.
Yes.
And that's just one of those simple,
and that's the tailgate. I mean, you look at everything that the stadium itself would benefit as well. So I'm hopefully we can see all through that. I had a back and forth exchange with one of the counselors today through private message, and the counselors are scheduled to see this proposal on December the 10th. And very quickly, it will be put to vote, and we're going to hear yay or nay on the Atlantic Schooners before calendar 2020. We're going to know. Ray and I will be crushed if it doesn't happen, though we both have our expectations set pretty realistic at this point where we're ready to hear that it isn't going to happen. And we've already mentioned this to people who listen to our CFL show already, but if the Schooners don't come, whether we continue to cover the CFL at all or not is completely up in the air. So.
Ambrosi did say in his State of the Address for the CFL, did you watch it?
Yep.
He said there will always be football in Atlantic Canada.
There will, yeah.
There will still be Touchdown Atlantics, and, he's going to do everything he can to try to build momentum here for another push at some point. But which is great. I'd love to see the Argos, the Alouettes, the Stampeders come back out here. But we want our own team. In order for us to keep doing it and fulfilling our passion covering the CFL, after 3 years of doing this, Andy, man, I need a team here. And I have to tell you, I've become very close with some Ottawa Red Blacks fans over the year. I follow y'all on Twitter. You know who you are because you listen to this show. And I loved seeing the pictures of you guys going to the Grey Cup this year. I loved, seeing all your stories on Twitter. I just hope one day that you and I get to share that same passion for a team that these guys have for their CFL franchise.
That's the missing piece out here, guys. So, we hear comments from Western Canadians and everybody, they don't care about the CFL out east and so on. And you know what? This is very much NFL territory because we don't have a team. Yeah. If we had a team to have an emotional attachment with, and you know what? A lot of us that are pushing for the Schooners here have already developed that emotional attachment. It's already there. We don't even need to see them play.
I'm a Schooners fan right now.
Yeah, we will be season ticket holders immediately if it happens. We don't even need to see this team play, and that's what's missing out here for us to truly be, CFL territory. Because yes, right now. This is Patriots country, as unfortunate as that is for NFL fans, and it's the lack of team. It has to happen. We need a team. Otherwise, our hearts will never be fully in it.
No.
Yep.
There you go. Guys, that is a wrap.
That's a wrap.
I just on a quick Alouettes update, Andy, I did write this down. Kahari Jones signed a 3-year deal with the Alouettes.
Excellent.
That's fantastic for Montreal.
Yep.
damn, I wish Montreal could be my team, but I'd be heartbroken because William Stanback, the running back, has 4 NFL teams that he's going for workouts for the month of December. So, there's always moving pieces with the team, but I love William Stanback. He's so exciting. And I do think he will find a job in the NFL. He's that exciting of a running back.
Potentially, yeah. We'll see. I mean, even James Wilder Jr., who was the most dynamic running back we had seen in the CFL in a long time after that first year, it's a completely different game. It's a completely different setup in the NFL.
It is tighter, bigger.
1 yard off. The neutral zone is a big proponent to success in the running game sometimes. So. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, and I think probably soon enough we'll know who the new owners of the Alouettes are as well, right? Because that's coming. So
last thing I have before we get out of here, Andy, I love this guy.
Yep,
Mike Shoesmith.
Okay,
love him.
Okay,
all year he's been telling me I was wrong for not having the Ticats in first in my power rankings.
Yeah,
Shoesmith, I told you. Winnipeg is number one. Number one.
I don't know that you had Winnipeg number one the whole year, but okay. Yeah, you're right. You have been.
I had them up there for most of the year, number one.
Yeah.
Even when the doubters after Nichols went down, I had such a tough time taking them out of number one, which I did for a few weeks. But I'm telling you right now, that game, it's all about the W. All about the W. Number one,
all right.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
There you go. Well, we'll wrap it up, guys. Enjoy the off season. There's going to be a lot of interesting things. The quarterback movement's going to be super exciting. Is Mazzoli back in Hamilton, or are they going to commit to Dane Evans after how the Grey Cup went? Collaros, will he stick around in Bomb? I mean, that's a high risk proposition right there. And who's going to start for the Argos?
It could be Collaros.
Who knows?
It could be Collaros.
Who knows?
Anyways, guys, thanks again. We really appreciate you guys coming by, checking us out this year. We had lots of support, and hopefully, you'll hear from us again.
Later, guys.
Don't forget to check out our Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as our website, firstdownsportspodcast.com.